And a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. This is Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. We reflect on how Mary, virgin without stain, has made up for the fall of Eve. She who is the daughter of God, mother of God, and spouse of God, has crushed the head of hell's serpent with her immaculate heel. The Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit have crowned her with the rightful empress of the universe. Saint Jose Maria Escriva wrote about Mary, "The angels pay her homage as her subjects, and the patriarchs and the prophets and apostles and the martyrs and confessors and virgins and all the saints and all sinners, including you and me." What is the relevance of the queenship of Mary? One of the stories in the book, The Glories of Mary, show how merciful is the heart of the Blessed Mother. There was a prostitute named Anna who was censured publicly by her parish priest for refusing to amend her life. Even the convent where Anna sought refuge refused to accept her. She found herself outside the parish, alone, dejected, condemned in isolation. She had but one recourse that had always given her consolation in the midst of her afflictions and misery. She would always call on Mary, the Queen of Mercy and Compassion. Anna did one act of piety faithfully. She would pray the rosary daily with all her heart, begging God for mercy. It was her only recourse, as the parish priest would no longer absolve her of her sins, and she remained ostracized by parishioners and even the sisters. She became very sick and died all alone in her little small shop outside the parish. 3 days after her death, she appeared to Saint Elizabeth of Saint Augustine, the superior of the convent, and told her that because she faithfully prayed the rosary every day, she had been saved from damnation by Mary. However, she was in purgatory and asked for 50 masses to be said. Not wasting her time, Saint Elizabeth of Saint Augustine sent petitions to celebrate 50 masses to priests he knew in town. After a month, Anna the prostitute appeared to her again from heaven in bright white clothes to thank her for the masses she offered on her behalf. All we need to do is to invoke Mary, the Queen, for help, and she will be there to assist us. St. Albert the Great said, while reflecting on the book of Esther, chapter 4, that King Ahasuerus decreed in his kingdom the death of all the Jews. Then Mordecai, who was one of the condemned, committed their cause to Esther the queen, that she might intercede with the king to obtain the revocation of the sentence. At first, Esther refused to take upon herself this office, fearing that it would excite the anger of the king further. But Mordecai rebuked her and bade her remember that she must not think of saving herself alone, as the Lord had placed her upon the throne to obtain salvation for all the Jews. He told her sternly, "Do you think that you may save your life only because you are in the king's house more than all the Jews?" This we poor sinners might also say to our Queen Mary, if she were ever reluctant to intercede with God for our deliverance from the just punishment of our sins. Ahasuerus, when he saw Esther before him, affectionately inquired of her what she had come to ask of him. "What is your petition?" And the queen answered, If I have found favor in your sight, O king, give me my people, for which I request. Ahasuerus heard her, and immediately ordered the sentence to be revoked. Now if King Ahasuerus granted to Esther the salvation of the Jews because he loved her, will not God graciously listen to Mary in his boundless love for her when she prays to him for those poor sinners who recommend themselves to her? She would say to him, If I have found favor in your sight, O King and my God, if I have ever found favor with thee, give me my people for which I request. The Divine Mother knows well that she is the blessed, the fortunate, the only one of the children of man who found the grace lost by man. That she knows that she is the beloved of her Lord, more beloved than all the saints and angels united. Because of this, she is our greatest and our powerful intercession to her beloved Son. If you love me, she prays to him, give me, O my Lord, these sinners in whose behalf I entreat you. Is it possible that God will not graciously hear her?
Anyone who reads the New Testament would agree that Jesus, if he's anything, is the King of Israel, right? That's what it means to refer to him as the Messiah. He is the new Davidic king. But the question we don't often ask ourselves is, well, if he's the king, then who is the queen, right? And the reason we don't ask ourselves that is because we just don't read the Old Testament like we should. Any first century Jew, going back to the Old Testament, would have recalled that in the time of David's kingdom, the queen was not the king's wife. The queen was his mother, right? She was actually referred to in Hebrew as the Gebirah, which often gets translated as queen mother, but it actually means great lady, right? A Gebir is a powerful man, like a great man. A Gebirah is a powerful woman, a great woman, the great lady, a royal lady, okay? So she's referred to, for example, in 1 Kings chapter 15, verse 13. And if you walk through the books of Kings, 1st and 2nd Kings, as well as 1st and 2nd Chronicles, which don't get made into movies, and that's why we don't know about the Queen Mother, right? What you're going to see is every time they introduce a new king, they don't tell you who his wife is. They give a little genealogy, and they tell you the king's name, and then they tell you his mama's name, right? They tell you his mother's name because she holds the rank of second in the kingdom, right? She holds the office of Queen Mother. And you can see that it's an office from a few things. First, she wears a crown. Jeremiah chapter 13, verse 18. Just like the king, she wears a crown. Also in Psalm 45, it says she stands at the king's right hand. You remember this psalm, dressed in gold of Ophir, right? Okay. Anytime in the Old Testament you see somebody at a king's right hand, it means they share in his authority, right? The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand, okay? So she has authority, she has an office. She also acts, and this is important, as a kind of royal intercessor, okay? And you can see this custom reflected in a famous story from the book of Kings, 1 Kings chapter 2. Now, this is a story about Bathsheba, right? And Bathsheba really is the most famous of all of the queen mothers of Israel because of the story of the adultery between her and David. So we all know Bathsheba from that story, right? Now, when you fast forward to 1 Kings chapter 1, while David is still alive, when he's the king, and Bathsheba comes into the royal courtroom, Bathsheba bows to him, right? She's the wife, but she bows to the king. But in the next chapter, 1 Kings 2, David has died, and now Solomon's king. And when Solomon is king and Bathsheba comes into the room, the royal courtroom, he bows to her. It's reversed. And he doesn't just bow to her. He gets his men to bring a throne in for her, and she sits at his right hand. So this is 1 Kings chapter 2. Bathsheba went to King Solomon to speak to him on behalf of Adonijah. So Adonijah came, he wanted to get Abishag, who was David's concubine, to be his. It's kind of a long sort of story. And look what she says. The king rose to meet her and bowed down to her. Why? Well, because she's the queen and she's his mother. Fourth commandment, honor your father and your mother. In Hebrew, literally glorify, kavod, your father and your mother. It's not just honor, it's glorify them. All right, now I need to go to confession. All right. Okay, whew, that's a strong commandment. So he honors her as the queen mother, bowed down to her, then he sat on his throne, and he had a throne brought in for the king's mother, and she sat on his right. Then she said, I have one small request to make of you, do not refuse me. And the king said to her, make your request, my mother, for I will not refuse you. 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 19 to 20. All right, so two things here real quick. What does Adonijah's request of Bathsheba and then Bathsheba's request of Solomon presuppose? It presupposes a custom of asking the queen mother to take the role of intercessor with the king, right? Which makes sense, right? If you want the king to do something for you, ask his mom. The queen has an office, she acts as intercessor, and she's close to the king. All right. Now, those aren't the only passages about the queen mother. She's also mentioned in various prophecies in the Old Testament. Most famous one being the virgin who will conceive and bear a child, and his name will be called Emmanuel, right? It goes on to say, he will be wonderful counselor, mighty God, Prince of Peace, God with us, all those things. Okay, that's Isaiah chapter 7 through 9. Now, we know those passages from Christmas and Advent, right? Preparation for the birth of the Messiah and their application to Mary. But what we often forget is that if the woman, that virgin who's mentioned in Isaiah 7, is going to have a child who is the king, then guess what that makes her? The queen mother. That's right, by definition. Okay. Same thing, Micah chapter 2 describes a woman who's going to give birth to the ruler in Bethlehem. So it locates the queen mother as having the child in Bethlehem. Right? So again, these aren't just prophecies of anybody, they're prophecies of the queen mother of the kingdom of the Messiah. So with those prophecies in mind, just put yourself in the shoes of first century Jewish woman like Mary. Right? One of the things that Jewish women would have known is that one of us is going to be the mother of the Messiah. And whoever God chooses to be the mother of the Messiah is also, by definition, going to be exalted to the office of queen. Now, I have 4 daughters, right? And they're all princesses. And they all want to be queens, right? Okay. So this is just a natural desire. You can almost imagine Mary, who's going to be the queen? Who's the future queen? And when the angel Gabriel appears to her and tells her, right, she would have known. Not only is she going to bear the Son of God, she's going to be the queen mother. If you have any doubts about that, just look at the New Testament. A couple of key points. Number 1, the story of the Nativity. Really fascinating. When Matthew tells you the account of Jesus, he begins with that long genealogy. Matthew chapter 1, verse 23. This is really important for understanding Mary's identity in the New Testament as Mother of God. Okay? Because many people say, well, where does the New Testament ever call Mary the Mother of God? Okay. And sometimes Catholics will say, well, Elizabeth calls her Mother of my Lord. Right? That's close. And it's true, Lord can be used not just for the king, but also for God. But Matthew chapter 1 is really where they get this from, because in Matthew 1, verse 22 to 23, it says this, all this took place to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and his name shall be called Emmanuel, which means what? God with us. Now, although we say Mother of God, the actual Greek term is Theotokos, God-bearer. It comes from the Greek word theos, we get theology from that, and then tikto, or tokos, which means a bearer, or a woman who bears someone. Well, where do those terms come from? First page of the New Testament. When Matthew says that a woman will conceive and bear, tikto, a son, she will be called the mother of Emmanuel, God, theos, with us. You just put those two things together, tikto and theos, what do you get? Theotokos, God, bearer, Mother of God. It's right there. So, that's the nativity. What about the visitation? Well, not only does Mary get called Mother of my Lord by Elizabeth, but this is so important. After she hears the message of Gabriel, she hears the words of Elizabeth, there's a clue to her identity as the Queen Mother in the Magnificat. And there's a little clue here about Mary as Queen Mother, because in the Magnificat, what does Mary say? In Luke chapter 1:46 and following, she says, "Behold, henceforth some generations will call me," most generations, many Christians, just Catholics, no, all generations will call me blessed, for the Almighty has done great things for me, and holy is His name, right? What does she say? He has regarded the low estate of His handmaiden. And if you skip down to verse 52, it says, Mary says, He has put down the mighty from their what? Thrones. And exalted the lowly. Now that Greek word for lowly, tapanosos, is exactly what she just referred to herself as. The lowly handmaid. And now God has taken the mighty from their thrones and exalted the lowly. Why is there more than one throne? And who are these lowly who have been exalted? It's Mary and her Son. Because He's the king and she's the queen. And then finally, Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. This one's really easy. When John sees the woman clothed with the sun, she's wearing what on her head? A crown of 12 stars. But in ancient Israel, if a woman's wearing a crown and the crown has 12 stars, who is she? The Queen of Israel, the Queen Mother. What's the implications of this? Quite simply, that if Mary is the new Queen Mother, then it makes sense that we as Catholics do two things. We should honor her. And if earthly queens of earthly kingdoms deserve the honor of their subjects, then how much more the Holy Queen of the Kingdom of Heaven? Second, if she is the Queen, then it makes sense that we would ask her to intercede for us. Because she's not dead. She's alive in heaven. That's why we call it eternal life. And so she is with Christ in the heavenly holy holies and can ask Christ, she can intercede on behalf of us as members of the kingdom and as children of God.
There is a remarkable miracle through the intercession of Mary in the heroic history of the small Mediterranean town. At first glance, the town of Mosta in Malta appears to be nothing but an average-sized market town in the middle of the island, with shops and roads and people going to work and school. But upon a closer look, there are two stunning features that draw visitors to Mosta time after time. The magnificent 19th century domed church at its center, and the story of the 1942 miracle of Mary, the Queen of Heaven, which saved not only the magnificent church, but most importantly, the lives of the people in Mosta. In 1942, as World War II spread over Europe, the Allied forces, led by Great Britain, and the Axis forces, led by Germany and Italy, fought hard over the island of Malta. For the island nation holds a strategic geographical location between Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. Hitler and the Axis forces with their allies surrounded the island of Malta, threatening to wipe out all its people. Battleships, submarines, fighter planes, and bomber planes dangerously encircled the tiny island. People heard explosions from machine guns and grenades everywhere throughout the night. The dead lay in the streets, along the seashores, and in open marketplaces. On April 9, 1942, a congregation of over 300 people were inside the church, praying continuously the Rosary before the exposed Blessed Sacrament. They begged the Queen of Heaven and Mother of Mercy for protection from harm. 4 bomber planes attacked the church, each carrying a bomb that weighed 1,000 pounds. Enemy planes launched an aerial attack, and aimed directly at the church in the center of Mostar. Several bombs were dropped. One of the enemy bombs came through the roof of the Mostar church dome and bounced off two of the interior walls before landing inside the church. In a panic, several people dived to protect themselves from danger, fearing the bomb would ignite and explode inside the church. However, they refused to stop praying the rosary. Some courageous people even remained kneeling at their pews, praying the rosary even louder. The Queen of Heaven with her army of angels was already present, protecting her children. Miraculously, the bomb did not explode. This miracle was attributed to Mary, the Queen of Mercy, and all because of the unfading faith of the people of Malta to Mary, which is expressed in their continuous daily rosary.
Because of all you gave to God, because the yes was spoken from the heart, because the gift of life God gave to you, you return to those around you. You gave the gift to those who come, because you bore the child without shame, because you willingly accepted all the pain, because you followed the path God made for you. God prepared you a crown that you will wear eternally, to serve as inspiration to the world. It's a crown you'll wear with dignity as you raised the child with love, as you pondered all the mysteries of your heart, never understanding everything, but never needing to. You trusted that your God would care for you. God has prepared you a crown that you will wear eternally, to serve as inspiration to the world. It's a crown you'll wear with dignity. God has prepared you a crown that you will wear eternally, to serve as inspiration to the world. It's a crown you'll wear with dignity. It's a crown you'll wear with dignity.